edit before this. But we'll get started here in a second. You ready to go?
Yeah, ready, buddy.
3, 2, 1. And we're here with none other than Captain Steve. Steve, it has been a grueling 4 years for us here at Hamza's Corner. And our production staff was sitting here thinking, you know who hasn't been put in a corner in a while? Captain, a.k.a. Commissioner Steve Peterick. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a while. I was kind of starting to wonder if you're mad at me or whatever, and then I got this text last night. And I just assumed it was a text that got held up somewhere, like in the satellites and stuff like that. Because I thought it was like from 2006, because you were talking about Skype. So I don't know if that was it. If it's just taking a while for your text to get through or whatever. But regardless, I'm happy to be here. It gives me some practice and a warm up for Thanksgiving. Kind of working with some old technology, and I'll be troubleshooting at my parents tomorrow. So kind of right there with some good timing.
Perfect. I figured get you good to go, because I'm sure your parents are just like mine. When you get there, they're going to be like, perfect, you're here. I have 3 things I need you to look at. First thing, our router. Did you try to plug it back in?
Yeah, it's the router. It's I bought them a smart TV finally a couple of years ago, and it's figuring out all the apps and why their apps aren't working and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sure they'll have a list. My parents are like, oh, no worries, like if you get to it, but they've got a list of things for me for sure.
Oh man, well, good luck to that. I hope you get a full 3 helpings worth of Thanksgiving turkey. And have a great meal. I love Thanksgiving. Personally, it's one of my favorite holidays. Nothing better than food, family, and football.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know that Thanksgiving football games are going to be all that entertaining. I'm thinking they're going to be 3 blowouts personally, but we'll see. At my house, it's always kind of like a background thing anyway, so we'll see.
I think, speaking of football, let's jump right on into that. So, you think the 3 games will be a blowout? Are you? I mean, what's new with Commissioner Steve in the NFL? Again, it's been since 2019 since we sat down with you. We sat down with you at one point in 2020, but it was a joint conversation with you and Commissioner Caston, if I'm not mistaken. So, what's new? What are your sights on? Are you still even a Chicago Bears fan? Because as you know, one of our members is now a Kami fan. So
yeah, Brian has switched teams in more ways than one. But yeah, I'm still a Bears fan. It's tough, like the past couple of years, because I know losing is better for the draft position, and I get that, logically, but I just can't find myself to root for the Bears to lose on Sunday. So it's tough. I'm still a Bears fan. This year I've skipped more Bears games than ever before. Like if the game against the Chiefs comes to mind, early in the season, we all knew they were going to get blown out. So I'm not wasting my Sunday doing that. So I went and did yard work or something like that. So, still a Bears fan. But I'm kind of, as I'm getting older, distancing myself from having too much emotional investment in a bad team.
I hear you. Well, which team I'm a fan of is the Stisley Bears. So why don't we get started and talk a little bit about the Stisley Bears? What happened this year?
So yeah, talk about investment in a bad team, that you might want to reevaluate your fandom there. But the Stisley Bears has been a rough year. Obviously, coming off a co-championship. I'm not sure if you can see the trophy proudly behind me on my shelf next to that big panda bear. But coming off a co-championship with Tim, honestly, I just had a bad draft. I felt like I was in a good position with my keepers, with Justin Jefferson, which of course he got hurt, but even before that, I didn't love my team. Fields being my keeper in a late round. Again, I was optimistic about that, but he missed a chunk this year and it was very inconsistent to start the year. But even beyond the keepers, I just didn't get the next tier guys that you need to win. I like some of my players, but I was missing consistency, consistent high scorer. So bad draft, and that's partially on me. I think sometimes some years just the way the draft order falls, you're kind of at the mercy of what's there when you're picking. And I think we could all bitch about our draft order and kind of where we landed. But I struggled with that, and again, just never got off to a good start. Don't think my team's all that good. So hopefully next year will be a rebound year.
Well, very, very well said. I think you're the only one right now that ESPN predicted you'd be an eighth, and you're ranked eighth. So you're
yeah,
right. ESPN predicted.
They were pretty spot on. The infamous Caston rankings had me higher after the draft. When he was going through those, I appreciated the love that I was getting from his establishment, but I wasn't all that confident after the draft. I didn't say that at the time, of course, because you don't want to tell your competition that you're not super confident, but I just didn't have a good feeling about this year. So here we are.
The fake meat Cassins were ranked second by ESPN, and I believe Casson was a little bit more. He was a little bit more harsher on his team. I think he had his team ranked third, if I'm not mistaken. It's usually third or fourth. I mean, regardless of how bad they are, they're usually in the top four. But I think this year he had himself ranked third. The injuries was a huge factor this year for a lot of people. And one of the things that I want to say is there's one team out there that the Stisley Bears just can't get enough spankings in, and that's the Hood Rats. And that's who you're playing in the first round. You're 2-0 against the Hood Rats, and guess who you see in the first round of the Ian playoffs?
Yeah, so the Hood Rats and Stisley Bears have a long rivalry, long history. It's a shame, looking at the standings for the league this year. A lot of the, I guess, core franchises. I don't know if we've got like an original six or anything like they have in hockey. We got to kind of rebrand ourselves with something. But a lot of the core franchises have had down years this year. Looking at the bottom of the standings with myself and the Hood Rats and the Sloppy Joes and fake meat struggling. But it's always a good matchup between me and the big fella. So. It'll be fun. We'll, maybe we'll see if we'll get together over the next couple of weeks and, drink some beers and watch some football or something at some point. But he's a good friend, a good guy, so it's not a nasty rivalry. But it should be a good matchup.
Well, I can tell you, I fondly remember a time where we all gathered the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and enjoyed a few drinks in Eddie's basement with some Friendsgiving meals. Maybe in the near future we'll have to get that started again. So
yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I think that oddly, like not oddly, you guys are all close friends, but this time of year I always think about that time because it's around, you always hear someone mention Friendsgiving or something, around this time of year. And I always think to that because some of my friends have had like Christmas parties and things like that over the years, but I've never really had a Friendsgiving besides that one. That was a lot of fun. And, we probably, it'd probably be a little bit different these days than it was in our early 20s, but it would still be fun. So yeah, maybe one day.
Definitely. I think, there's a lot of us have significant others and our families have multiplied. So I see, I don't know if anybody was in a relationship at that time. Were you and Just together at that time?
Oh no, that was long time ago. I want to say it was probably like
It was like
10 years ago, like that we had that or something like that. And we
2012, because it was the year Eddie went to finally, packed up his car and moved to California.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so yeah, it wasn't, Jess and I weren't together. I would bet none of people
Maybe
in the
cast
league
that
were
shop.
with their current partners, right now. So I think it's just a lifetime ago.
What a world. 10 years. 10 years makes a big difference. 11 in this case.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast here, coming into Hamza's Corner. Hopefully, we treated you well. I tried to give you the respect you deserve by putting on the nice suit for you. I even have a little pocket square. Um, one thing that I guess, is there anything that you want to say, end off with? Anything that you want to get off your chest before I let you go?
No, I mean, well, a couple of things. So first, is it a podcast or a TV show? That's the first time I've ever heard you call it a podcast. But regardless, I was thinking you would ask me about my predictions for for the playoffs. So maybe we can kind of close with that. But before I get into that, just big shout out to Jeff Loach, and welcome him to our league for the first year. He came in a tough spot. I know he knew a few of you, but not knowing a big chunk of the group, and coming in without any keepers in the last draft pick, he's really turned it, turned in a good performance for an expansion franchise for sure. But that said, I was looking at it this morning as far as the brackets, and I don't know, Hamza. I think you're in a good position to finally get one this year. I don't want to jinx you or anything, but your team's been performing well. I think it's really a 3-man race between you and Tom and Sam are kind of my three picks to click. And this time of year, it just comes down to health and who's going to have that big performance. There's always the 35, 40, 45 point performance that just makes a difference this time of year. So it'll be fun to watch, and I'm feeling like it might be your year. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. As far as, I just want to go back to your earlier question about this being a podcast. It was a slip of the tongue. It was one of those. I've been watching podcasts all day, so that's kind of why that kind of came up. But other than that, I agree with you that this definitely looks like my year. I was just speaking to one of the other team owners in the Timmy Tangos, and I was just telling him, I'm like, I feel like this is my year. I've been more hopeful going into the playoffs than I have been in a long time, maybe since 2008. And I will say, this upcoming round, I the other side of the bracket with Tom and Sam definitely looks to be a tough one. But I wouldn't put it past Timmy Tango, man. Let me tell you, he started off the year hot. He had a tough time when buys came around, and I think the last couple of weeks his team has been firing. And he also has a lot of players on his team that that need to perform, right? He has teams that are on that playoff cusp for the NFL, and when you have a lot of players on that cusp, they're gonna perform and they're gonna put up big numbers consistently because a win is a must. Whereas one of the things that I think maybe might hurt myself or Scott is our teams are generated with people like that might be out entirely and therefore they don't care, or people that are just at the end of their contracts, trying to just get by this year without being hurt so that they can go into next year. At least speaking for myself. So those are my only concerns going into the end of the year or going into the playoffs. I can tell you that only Sam's started the year pretty, not too well, and they've had a very scary run. So that's definitely a team to look out for going into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. I was putting together the weekly winners, and the only Sam's had some big performances this year. So we'll see if it's them, if it's the Goobacks or the Hog Swishers. We'll see who comes up on top.
Hornswogglers.
That's what I said. The harsh swallowers.
Oh man, gotta love it. I love your your harsh swallowers. Love the team names. I think we should have a rule that your team should always have a different name every year, just to force people to come up with more creative names. And I think it'd be funny.
Disagree, but hey, we don't always have to agree.
Well, hey man, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on Hamza's Corner. And yeah, that's a wrap. Thanks again.
See ya.
All right, so I will edit this part out. Once it's done, I'll stop the video here, and yeah, we're good to go.
Cool. Sounds good, buddy.